Hi everyone, Heather here with Astrology with Heather.com, and I am back with another weekly forecast. And this one is from Monday, July 15th, all the way through to Sunday, July 21st of 2019. And this is, again, another big week in the astrology. We are in the middle of eclipse season, and we have a partial lunar eclipse in the sign of Capricorn that's going to be forming a conjunction with Pluto, which is a planet that's associated with a lot of intensity. And so this week, things are getting a little heated. Things are going to potentially feel very, well, intense. And I'll get into the specifics of that in just a second here. But really what this is we've been building toward this energy for quite some time. We have Pluto, Saturn, and the South Node that have been in this conjunction doing this little dance while Pluto and Saturn are retrograde and the nodes, station and then move forward and move backward and station again. They move very slowly. So we've had this configuration going on where Saturn last week came into another conjunction with the South Node, the second conjunction. And Pluto, has been dancing on and off with Saturn and with the South Node as well. And so this is highlighting a lot of the energy that we've been talking about for months now, where we are looking at a major restructuring and a major point of release in a certain area of our lives. And it's all coming to a head this week. Full moons, even when they are part of an eclipse, represent a culmination point of an energy that began a long time ago, sometimes a long time ago, maybe at the start of the month for some of you, but really this is more of a long-term energy. This is an energy that started to come about this over the course of this past winter. So around January was when, in February, that's when we were really feeling this energy during the last eclipse cycle for the very first time. But we've also been having these on and off conjunctions with Pluto and Saturn. So it hasn't just been a one-time experience that where we seeded something and now it's coming to a culmination point. This is something with Saturn that we've been working on very diligently over the past 6 months. And we've been working toward restructuring a certain aspect of our lives, restructuring certain relationships, creating deeper intimacy, but putting in the work in order to create that intimacy in certain important relationships, building better loyalty and trust with the people that we care about. And on the other end of the spectrum, we've been working on letting go of oppressive, burdensome, controlled, really stifling energies and structures in our lives that are no longer serving a purpose, that we need to work on letting go of. And this is a point where we've been working and making sure that we're tying up loose ends, wrapping things up, and doing things in the right way, hopefully, because that's what Saturn requires, that we put in the work, that we don't just leave a giant mess for other people to clean up because we want to get rid of something, because we don't want to deal with this anymore. And so hopefully we've been putting in the work, we've been putting in the effort, and now is the point of purge. Now is the point where it's like this major release, where this Plutonian energy is being highlighted much more so than that energy of Saturn. They're both being highlighted really intensely. Saturn's with the South Node, and the South Node obviously is one of the eclipse points, so that's going to be a very strong energy this week. But this Pluto energy is being highlighted by the full moon in the sign of Capricorn. And so although this is a partial lunar eclipse, which typically partial lunar eclipses are some of the weakest types of eclipses that you'll experience versus a total blood moon lunar eclipse or a solar eclipse, which is considered to be much stronger of an energy. This is going to be an energy that is still going to be very powerful because of that Pluto alignment and because it's really highlighting what's going on with that Saturn-Pluto conjunction. And so globally, we're going to see probably a lot going on, on a societal level. We're going to see a lot going on in terms of crazy weather, which we've already been seeing: earthquakes, volcanoes, tsunamis, hurricanes. All of these things are always associated with the eclipse energy. And so that energy is still coming about. It's still playing out right now. It was initiated a few weeks ago and it's still there. And so we do have to kind of be aware of that. On the other end of the spectrum though, we do have Venus in an exact opposition with Saturn this week, coming into a conjunction with the North Node in the sign of Cancer. And so this is where we find solace. This is where we find balance. This is where a lot of the good energy, the fated, wonderful, synchronistic occurrences will come into our lives, so long as we are purging and so long as we are letting go and transforming what needs to be transformed on the opposite end of that spectrum. And so that's where we come into that balance, is by we've put in some of the work. Now it's time for this to sort of come to a head, reach a culmination point. We're seeing the results of our labors. We're seeing the results of the efforts we put in to release the oppressive energies and these difficult forces. And now it could come to this boiling point where it feels like a bit of an emotional crisis, because that's the moon, right? The moon is our emotions. And we can't hold back anymore. And when we talk about Pluto, we're talking about the energy of death, rebirth, power and control issues. Surrender is a big part of dealing with that Pluto energy. If you're still holding on to these aspects of your life that you know are not good for you, that you know are toxic. Pluto rules toxins and detoxification, especially within the body, but just in general. So if you're holding on to toxic environments, toxic situations in your life, and you haven't fully committed to letting go, now is that point of release. Now is the time to let go. If you don't do it now, it's going to feel much, much worse leading up to this energy in December 2019 and January of 2020, when we have that exact conjunction being highlighted by an eclipse with Pluto and Saturn. So you want to do the work, you want to get rid of stuff. This is a great time for physical detox. This is a great time for spiritual detox. This is a great time for energetic detox. This is a great time to clear away things in your life, even just harnessing the energy by sort of throwing away things in your home environment that no longer serve you, to clear space. That's going to open up some energy too. And so these are all things that are important to pay attention to this week. That being said, we are also having some other stuff going on that I'm not going to focus as much on when we get into the forecast for all 12 signs, but it's important to make note of. And so we have Venus as part of this configuration, making a really nice trine with Neptune. And so this is where, again, we find that escape, that rest, that reprieve. We lean toward our compassionate side. We lean toward what feels good. We lean toward connecting with people that support us and connecting with energies that are supportive and comfortable and creating something new in that area of our lives. And that Neptune energy is supporting us in doing that. Leaning toward our spirituality, leaning toward paying attention to our intuition and what that tells us, paying attention, those visions and impressions and downloads and synchronicities during this particular eclipse are going to be much stronger because of that Neptunian energy, and they'll come in really easily if you are open and you're paying attention and you're not too focused on trying to hold on to stuff that is just going to be falling by the wayside, because there are going to be things that are going to be leaving our lives right now. And so that's part of the energy too. And then the final thing I wanted to mention is that Mercury is retrograding back into the sign of Cancer, and it's going to actually hit the sun on Sunday. And so we'll have Mercury Cazimi. And so this is a point where, so this is happening at 6:34 a.m. Mountain Time, like Colorado time. So that would be 5:34 a.m. Pacific, 7:34 a.m. Central, 8:34 a.m. Eastern in the United States. I'm not going to do every time zone in the entire world, but you can look it up, figure out when this is coming exact. And within an hour or two of that time frame, this is a point where we can get clarity on what's going on and what we need to change. And so this is often a point where, especially with the moon being in the sign of Pisces around that time, this is a point where we can really reach this sense of clarity around what this Mercury retrograde is trying to get us to review and to revisit and to change moving forward. And so if you've been feeling kind of all over the place, if you've been feeling like you don't know what the heck is going on, which a lot of people feel that right now, it's kind of like being whiplash. Like there's so many things going on all at once, especially if you're getting the stronger end of this eclipse energy. then this is a point where you can sit with it, you can journal, you can think things through. If you want to do it in a rational way, great. If you want to do it through just contemplation, meditation, that's also great. But that energy is going to bring that clarity that we're seeking if that's something that we're struggling with during this Mercury retrograde. And so that's always the point of the Mercury retrograde, where it's like, oh, that's why all this is happening. That's why every time I go to do this, that, or the other thing, it goes wrong, because that's not what I'm supposed to be doing, or I didn't do it the right way, or I have to revisit this energy or this situation or this relationship and clean up loose ends and all of those, Mercury retrograde types of things. And if you want to have a little bit more information about what Mercury retrograde represents and how to deal with and survive the Mercury retrograde, I've mentioned this before, but I do have a blog post on my website, very quick and to the point, just my 4 best tips for dealing with the Mercury retrograde energy successfully. And so you can find that on my website. And so that's kind of a good segue into the announcements for this week. So first and foremost, I've brought back my urgent single question reading. I hesitate to announce this because when I do, too many people book it and I have to shut it down for a little bit to catch up, because the point of this is that it's quick, to the point, you get it right away, and it doesn't disrupt my ability to get my other readings done. But a lot of people have stuff going on right now, and so if that's you, I brought that back because it's a very popular option, and I'm not doing longer readings right now, or I'm not taking orders for longer readings right now. And also, if you are a Leo sun sign, your solar return forecast is now available. The link is down in the description below. And I did a free video that just gives a brief general overview of the energy for your solar return for the year ahead for all Leo sun signs. So you can go back. That was posted earlier this week, and that's completely for free. It's a birthday present to you guys. But if you want to go deeper, you can. I have a 2-hour video with a PDF file that gives specific dates and indicators. And so that's down in the description below. And finally, I am doing my All About Mastering Uranus webinar on August 17th, which is a Saturday at noon Mountain Time. And so that's going to be a live webinar where we're going to go really deep into the energy and the influence of the most chaotic, disruptive planet that really does bring a lot of really great benefits. And so some people think that you can't harness the energy of Uranus because it's so eccentric and over the top and unpredictable, and to a certain extent that's true, but it also produces this need for change, this need to change something or do something in a new, rebellious, innovative way in an area of our lives when it is transiting our charts. And so there is a way to harness the energy and to utilize it so it comes about more positively. You'll still have some unexpected stuff coming up, but I can guide you as to maybe what areas you'll experience that in, so you are prepared for the disruption. And so that is going to be, again, on August 17th. It's only $19 if you register now. The price goes up after the fact, so even if you can't attend live, you'll get a discount, and the link is down in the description below. All right, and so let's get into the forecast now for all 12 signs. Starting with Aries, of course. And so for Aries and Aries Rising, you've been going through this process of, first off, restructuring what you have going on in the area of career, of public reputation, of your relationship with people in positions of power and authority in your life. And so that's been a process that's been going on for at least 6 months now, if not, it started longer, like earlier than that even. But for especially these past 6 months, you've been having this energy where you've been feeling the burden of limitation and restriction in the area of life associated with your career, your work, what it is that you're putting out there in the world. And even if you're not somebody who works or has a career or anything like that, it's looking at oppressive forces involving your public reputation and the way people see you out in the world, or involving people in positions of power and authority over you. And so there's been this need to really restructure what it is you're doing with your work moving forward, how you're presenting yourself out in the world. You might be feeling more burdened by projects and by responsibilities in the workplace. You might have a boss or a work situation that feels very restrictive or oppressive or intense in some sort of way. And this is a week where it can really reach a culmination point, a boiling point, where it's it's this point of release, this point of purge. And I've seen a lot of people already who have just been messaging me, sending emails, clients and things like that, who are like, you know, you're right, this happened and I quit my job, or this job ended, or I told off my boss, or whatever it is. This situation is coming about in people's lives right now where they're reaching that point where they can no longer stand it. And you have to go through that transformation. You have to face your fears of letting go of these structures that were so comfortable and that were working so well for you for so long, in order to create a better structure and a better situation for yourself moving forward. And it can come about in very fated, karmic, synchronistic ways that can be very positive, but it might be experienced as a little bit of an emotional crisis around your work this week. And especially for those who have their Aries sun, moon, or rising around, I would say anywhere from 19 to like 26 degrees, because Pluto is at 21, we have the moon at 24. This might be particularly intense for you, and you might be feeling this also on a physical level. It could be a crisis of health, it could be a crisis of your energy and well-being, it could be a crisis of you connecting with who you truly are and following your path, and maybe not being able to do that, or feeling like you're unable to do that because of the oppressive energy coming from your work. And so now's that point of purge, that point of release. It's time to detox, to get rid of anything toxic in your work environment. You don't need that anymore. If you let it go now, yes, of course, it'll be intense, but it's something that has been building and needs to happen and has needed to happen for quite some time. And hopefully you've set up a structure for yourself so you won't be completely, creating a giant mess or chaos in that area. And what you've been looking to do is figure out, what do you want after work, right? What do you want to come home to? That's the energy of the North Node with the Sun and with Venus in the 4th house. And so maybe it's a matter of purging something in your career so that way you can focus more attention on your family and the needs of your family, or on having a really good home situation, or really focusing on your emotional comfort zones. All right. Oop, and you know what? I didn't even put up my little sign. So that was Aries. Sorry, guys. And that's Taurus. And I did have a chart for the eclipse right here. So you can see that it's really intense and there's a lot of opposition going on here. That Uranus-Mars square is still part of the picture. But I'm going to actually get that out of the way just because that's a lot of stuff on the screen. All right. And so for Taurus and for Taurus Rising, this energy is happening with the full moon, partial lunar eclipse conjunct Pluto in your 9th house. The 9th house is the house of beliefs. It's the house of travel. It's the house of foreign countries. It's the house of teachers. It's the house of teaching. It's a lot of energy around restructuring your belief system, restructuring your education. Maybe you're thinking about going back to school, but it seems like it's too hard. Or maybe you are in school and you realize that the curriculum that you're learning is just not in alignment with what you want and what you value. And maybe it'll be really hard to let go because you put in a lot of work, but maybe that's what you need to do. Maybe this is restructuring a relationship with a teacher, or restructuring your curriculum if you are a teacher. Maybe you've been working really hard on writing or publishing something, and you realize now that it's not correct and it's not working for you, and it's been this weight. And so now it's time to release it, let it go, or to transform it in some way. Take it and turn it into something different. That could be part of it too. There could be some complications or some very fated, karmic, intense activity that comes through long distance travel or people who live at a distance. And so that's something to watch out for too. But this is really ultimately about you restructuring your beliefs about God, the universe, the world around you, the philosophies that frame your reality. Anything that's oppressive or dogmatic that you've been holding on to when it comes to the way that you frame your life, you need to let go of that. Anything too negative or pessimistic that you've been holding on very rigidly to in terms of those energies, your life philosophies, now's the time to purge and let that go. And what you're really focusing on now is your day-to-day thought processes, your day-to-day communications. And so letting go of those overarching belief systems that are not in alignment truly with what you value, it's going to help you more on a day-to-day level to communicate more effectively, to have a better experience with your community, with your siblings, with the people that you surround yourself with in your immediate environment. with your learning processes too, and the way that you go about taking in information. It's going to open you up, and it's going to help you to also think more intuitively, right? And more creatively, because that's that Cancerian energy. And so it's unlocking a lot of creative potential, especially around communication. All right, and then for Gemini and Gemini Rising. This energy with the eclipse is happening in your 8th house, so this could be quite intense. It's already a Pluto eclipse. Pluto, as I mentioned before, rules death, rebirth, power struggles. It's intimacy, sexuality. It's transformation. It's that phoenix energy rising from the ashes. So it's like you have to burn everything down in order to come back up and rise and be victorious and successful and reborn and do things from a place of purity where there's not any baggage, fear, old stuff that's holding you back. And so now is a time where you have to kind of look at these things. So what's been holding you back? What in your life is disempowering you? Because that's really what the 8th house is. It's the house of power. You know, it's the house of other people's money, because that is a way that in society people exercise power and control over you. And so if you have a lot of debt, that's probably going to come up right now. If you have an issue with joint finances in marriage, that's going to come up right now. Maybe you were trotting along and you had a really good relationship with your partner or your spouse or your business partner, and things were coming through them financially that were benefiting you, and maybe that gets cut off. And maybe you have to transform the way that you deal with other people's resources and start focusing more money and harnessing resources in your own way, through your own efforts, your own hard work, because there's plenty of potential for that this week to be unleashed through this culmination point, this boiling point of the energy in the area of these power and control issues. And this could be just some sort of emotional, psychological, internal crisis that comes about this week. And even though it might not externalize, it's going to feel very intense, and it's going to be you really digging deep and getting down to the core issue of whatever it is that's been holding you back from fully coming into your power. And so it might feel intense. You might have to sort of look back at past traumas, past wounds, past insecurities. Anything that you're fearful of could come up right now, because when, like I always say, when you live in fear of something, those fears are controlling you subconsciously, and that's part of the 8th house too. So what are you afraid of? What's holding you back? You know, what about your past is really bleeding out into the present and not allowing you to feel empowered and to make the moves that you want to make, especially on a financial level? And so that's what's going on for Cancer and for Cancer Rising. All right, and that was Cancer. Or sorry, that was Gemini. So that was going on for Gemini and Gemini Rising. And so this is Cancer, sorry. And so for Cancer and for Cancer Rising, you guys have a big week this week. And so, you know, if you are born this week, if this is your solar return, especially if it's like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, right at the time of this lunar eclipse, this is going to be a very transformative, very life-changing year where a lot of very fated karmic situations reach their boiling point, especially in relationships. And that's going to be the case for pretty much all Cancers. But if you're born this week, your solar return indicates that this is going to be a year of really dealing with this type of energy. And so if you want to learn more about that, you can always purchase my extended solar return forecast, which is available in the link down in the description below for Cancer sun signs specifically. But for everyone else, I mean, this is an intense week for relationships, especially if you were born with your sun, moon, rising at that 16, 17 degrees. So anywhere from 15 to 18, I would say, you're going to be feeling that really intensely. And also anywhere from 20 degrees, let's just go with anywhere from like 26 degrees to 15 degrees, because it's really spanning that whole area for Cancers. So pretty much, you know, most Cancers, if you're born in the second half, or if you have your sun, moon, rising sign in that second half of the Cancer zodiac, this is an intense week. And so anyway, what's going on here is that this is a time where you need to work very hard on restructuring relationships. And so anywhere where you have allowed yourself to become controlled by a relationship, any relationships that are manipulative or oppressive in some sort of way, any any limitations or restrictions or difficulties that are not being addressed in relationship need to be addressed in a very intense way. There could be psychological issues in relationship, and this could be a really great time to work on relationship dynamics, especially power and control dynamics in relationship through something like couples therapy if you're, in marriage, or if it's a business partnership, doing some sort of mitigation or some sort of I don't know what they call that, but where they have like a person, I think it's mitigation, where they have a person that helps you to work through your issues, as a business or in partnership in business. That would be something that would be a really great way to use this energy, really getting down to the core psychological issues that are driving complications and really limiting oppressive, challenging energies in relationship. That's something that could be very fruitful if you want to hold on to your partnerships. On the opposite end of the spectrum, if you're not trying to restructure your relationship, if you don't want to continue on, if you don't want to deepen your intimacy moving forward, because if you do work on these relationships, you will have greater intimacy and greater longevity and greater loyalty and trust in the future. And so it's going to be a struggle now, but it's going to be a big payoff. On the other hand, though, there might be some relationships that you really need to purge, and you've been working on it. It's especially over the last 6 months, it's been very intense. And so if that's the case, this might be where it reaches a boiling point and something finally shifts and changes, and you let go of either that relationship or some aspect of the relationship dynamic throughout this period. And this is also a time, though, where, doing that can bring you a lot of great personal benefit, because you can focus more on coming back into balance in and of yourself and, within your own body, within your own experience, and focusing on creating what you want to create out in the world based on your own self-interest. And so that's part of this energy too, because you're shifting away from focusing so much energy and attention, because it's being demanded of you, on your partnerships and on your relationships, and focusing more on, okay, well, what do I need? What do I get out of this? What do I value? And going from there. All right, and so for Leo and for Leo Rising. So for Leo Rising people, this is happening in your 6th house of work and daily routines. And so you might have had some really oppressive energy in your day-to-day experience. Maybe your workload and just your general daily habits have become way too much and way too over the top, and they feel oppressive and burdensome. Maybe you have someone in the workplace that's micromanaging you, or that's really oppressive or controlling you in some sort of way. Maybe you have challenging, power dynamics that are going on within the workplace with your coworkers that need to be addressed. Maybe this is a health issue that's coming up for you right now, because this is the house of health, nutrition, the body, and your health habits and routines. And so hopefully you've been working very diligently in a very disciplined way over the past 6 months on releasing and purging bad habits and creating better structures and better habits and routines, especially to support detoxification of the body, which is a Leo issue because Leo is a fixed sign, but is also an issue with Pluto transiting your 6th house. You might be holding on to things physically in the body that are holding you back and keeping you sick. This is also an important time to address psychological and emotional and behavioral patterns that are connected to physiological illness, if that's something that is applicable to you. Not every Leo rising is going to have illness or anything like that. This could also be you dealing with illness with somebody else, and you showing up in service to help them and feeling really burdened and bogged down and oppressed by that energy. And it's like becoming too much, and maybe you need to let go of some of that responsibility. Maybe it's reached this boiling point and you need to recruit outside help. Maybe in your day-to-day work routines, it's reached a boiling point and you need to recruit outside help. But whatever it is, this is the point of purge. If you've been working on it, you can finally release something and create more space for yourself to focus on 12th house stuff, your subconscious realm, your spiritual practices, getting in touch with just anything that allows you to relax, because this is the house of rest. This is the house of pulling away from the busyness of day-to-day life. And so that's really where the balance comes into play and what you're working on moving into through this purge. All right, and then for Virgo and for Virgo Rising. For Virgos, this is happening in your 11th house. And so this is the house of friendships. This is the house of social networks, groups of people that you surround yourself with because you want to. And so this could be, actually, sorry, this is going to be in your, it is in your 11th house. That's part of it. That's the good energy. But the challenge right now is letting go of 5th house energies that are holding you back and preventing you from moving forward into this energy of connecting with people that that feel really good to you, connecting with the right groups of people where it feels familiar, it feels fated, it feels like you have this support system through your friendships. Focusing too much energy on romance, focusing too much energy on your own creative pursuits and creative endeavors, focusing too much energy on oppressive, burdensome energies involving children, or even, custody of children and things like that might be coming up for some people who have this Virgo rising. This is an energy where there's a challenge there, and you might be really struggling and trying to maintain control over what's going on. And now's a time where you need to relinquish control. You need to surrender. You need to let something go and stop fighting so hard and purge your really strong fixation on whatever it is that's going on in that area. And so, that could be really you've been wanting to create a business out of your passions, and maybe it's not working for you. Maybe that's really holding you back from connecting with people and from throwing yourself into an important group event or organization or charity or something that you've been really wanting to become a part of. Maybe you've been wanting to network more. Maybe you've been lacking in friendships, and now it's time for you to move into focusing more on that. And so there is an energy that needs to be released there. And it could even be that there's just some challenging situation in your family with your children that has been weighing on you, and you've been really hard on yourself and taking it to heart and taking too much responsibility for what's been going on, even though some of these events might be beyond your control. And so maybe it's a matter of letting go of that and letting go of holding on so tightly to guilt or this feeling of like I need to do everything. And maybe you can recruit some outside help and let go of some of those responsibilities. For Libra and for Libra rising. So this energy is happening in your 4th house, which is the house of home, family, property, your place of living. So this is all about getting your ducks in a row and cleaning up any unwanted energy involving your roots. And so this could even be something like power struggles or difficult energy involving your property if you own property. Maybe, with Pluto being there, there's something going on involving taxes or involving joint finances in some sort of way, or debt, or a burden of, somebody exercising power and control over you, like your landlord, an oppressive energy from that. Maybe you have a very nosy, very, on top of you sort of situation with your landlord or with, or with somebody in your home environment. Maybe there are power struggles going on within your family dynamic. Maybe you're taking on too much of the burden of responsibility for caring for your family and doing every single thing day in and day out. And maybe you need to relinquish control a little bit, or to delegate, or to restructure that energy. Maybe for some people, this is going to be a major purge where you move. You just completely let go of your home environment because it no longer serves you and you don't need it anymore. And so that could be part of it too. And it could be a move that's tied to maybe career advancement and tied to your work in some sort of way. Maybe even moving to a new office or a new location in that respect, so that way it provides you with better opportunities. But really what you're doing here is you're getting your ducks in a row, and you're focusing on letting go of anything in your home environment and in your family dynamic, and even letting go of past childhood trauma, past wounds, vulnerabilities, insecurities, fears that stem from your early childhood experience that are preventing you from fully embracing your path when it comes to your career and really being recognized out in the world for what it is that you came here to accomplish. And so there is a dynamic there that's going on. All right. And so for Scorpio and for Scorpio rising. Okay, so this is happening in your third house of communication. And so this is really, first off, having those tough conversations. That's going to be part of this energy. Is there something that you've been needing to do to restructure your day-to-day communication, to restructure your marketing plan, to restructure your connection with your community? Is there something that's burdening you in terms of communication? Is there something that's been weighing on you that you feel like you're responsible for and that you need to take responsibility for, but you haven't addressed it yet because you've been working on the details, or you've been working really steadily and really diligently toward your educational goals, or toward whatever it is that you're engaged in involving communication. And so this is a time to have those tough conversations. This is a time to cut ties with communications or ideas or belief systems that are oppressive or burdensome or are holding you back. This is a time where you might have some really intense, really burdensome discussions with people that weigh on you really heavily, and that's okay. It's a point of release where these things need to happen. You need to let it go. You need to just kind of push it away so you can focus your energy on ninth house themes, which are education, right? Higher educational pursuits, travel. Maybe you're thinking about branching out into teaching, or maybe you're finding a new teacher or taking on a new educational pursuit of some kind, and what's holding you back maybe are your negative thought processes, your negative patterns of thinking, speaking, behaving that you're not really even aware of, like these subconscious patterns where you always think of the worst case scenario, or you're using sort of more pessimistic negative language to communicate your thoughts and ideas, or you're too structured and too rigid in the way that you communicate, or the way that you market yourself, or the way that you learn new skill sets, or maybe you're feeling really burdened by the day-to-day processes of learning, the day-to-day details of everything, and you're not seeing the bigger picture. And so this could all be up for review, but having to have those difficult conversations to make space is going to be part of this. And the energy too, and you might be on the receiving end of that as well. So you might have some communication that comes in this week that's surprising, that's shocking, that completely alters your path, but it's been a long time coming. And so that could be part of it too. But the energy that is positive is in that area of travel. So this could open up opportunities for you to travel. This could open up opportunities for you for further education. This could change your belief systems and your mindset in a way that's very positive and more open and expansive. And so a lot of these themes can come into play this week. And then for Sagittarius and Sagittarius Rising, this energy is happening in your second house, which is the house of finance. And so this is going to be a culmination point of an energy that's been building for at least 6 months in the area of your money, your finance, your material possessions. And so this is all about really purging and letting go of old, oppressive, burdensome, challenging energies related to money. And so this could be you letting go of working way too hard for your money. This could be you letting go of an oppressive situation in the workplace, or an oppressive situation financially, by working on purging it, not just letting it go and creating a mess, not just not paying your debts and having it all go to collections, but working on a plan on how you can pay this off. And maybe this is where you finally get to purge, you finally get to let it go. This could be where you make a lot of headway in a very intense way that helps you to move out of really difficult financial situations or financial strain or limitations to your finances. Maybe you've been working on making an important purchase, and now's the point of release where it's reached the culmination point, it's reached the boiling point, and you need to pull the trigger, you need to do it now. That could be part of it too. The opposite end of the spectrum, though, is this 8th house energy. So this is actually more about even though there's an energy here where Pluto's involved, Saturn's involved, so restrictions and limitations on resources need to be released. You need to be working on transforming your relationship with money. There is this energy on the opposite end with the North Node, Venus, and the Sun in the 8th house, which is creating a better balance by allowing you to focus more of your energy on maybe getting money through investments, other people's resources. Maybe your spouse makes more money. Maybe you get an unexpected bonus, or an insurance check, or inheritance, or something along those lines. That could be the case as well. And so this is about learning that you don't always have to do everything yourself, and that there are other ways to deal with your resources that can be very positive. And maybe it's even something as simple as, getting a loan, but that loan actually benefits you in a lot of ways. It's not a burdensome sort of energy like in your second house. And so that could be part of it too. But reaching out, for partnerships involving finances this week, that could be something that could you could move forward with, so long as you're releasing those ties to the way that you used to deal with your resources in the past. And then for Capricorn and Capricorn Rising. So for Capricorn and Capricorn Rising, this full moon is happening in your first house, especially for Capricorn Risings. And so this is going to be a really powerful energy, especially if you were born, really anywhere from 15 to like 26 degrees. You're going to be feeling this in one way or another very intensely because of Saturn and the South Node's position and being triggered by Venus and all of that during the time of this full moon. And so this is a time where first off, you've probably been feeling a lot of personal burden and a lot of personal responsibility. You've been going through a major restructuring of your identity out in the world, who you are, the way that you want to show up. It's kind of like you've gone through this purge where you've let go of a lot of what you're not. And now it's kind of looking at what you want to rebuild. But before you rebuild, before you become this person that you're really working to become, you really have to purge and let go of the last of it, the remnants of what you've been holding on to. Anything that is not in alignment with who you truly are needs to go. And so that could be anything from old conditioned patterns of behavior and old conditioned patterns of showing up in the world in a certain way. Maybe it's a pattern of taking on too much of the responsibility for other people's stuff because maybe you had to take on a lot of responsibility at an early age and you learned that. And, if that's the case, it's time to start letting go of that and to realize that you don't have to carry all the weight. Your partner can help you, or your business partner, or your friends. There are people on the other side of the spectrum here that can help to bring balance into your life, to release that burden. And even if you still feel like you have to do the work yourself, you can lean on others for support on an emotional level, or you can lean on others as a place of solace and a place of reprieve, right? So spending time with the people that you care about, the people that feel familiar and comfortable and that support you, that's going to be, the benefit of letting go. And maybe you haven't had time to focus on your partnership. Maybe you've been neglecting your spouse. Maybe you've been neglecting your boyfriend, girlfriend, your friends. Maybe you've been neglecting your close, business relationships. And so you have to let go of something. You have to let go of a certain level of responsibility or some sort of oppressive, burdensome energy that feels very personal to you. So that way you can free up energy to focus on what really matters, which are your relationships right now. And so that could be part of it too. But you could have a bit of an emotional crisis. It could feel like everything has reached a boiling point and it's just weighing on you so heavily that you have to change something and you have to transform your life in a big way. And that's going to be especially true for people who have Capricorn Rising. From that 20th to 25th degree, you're going to be feeling that intense emotional crisis boiling and bubbling up. And it could even be a crisis with family. It could be a crisis involving your body and your health that could come up too, that stems from the emotional stress and the burden that you've been carrying on that internal level. And so, again, leaning toward your friends, leaning toward the people that you care about that support you for help and for assistance or just focusing on them more and focusing less on everything that you're worried about all the time. That could be part of it too. And then for Aquarius and Aquarius Rising. So this energy is happening in your 12th house, which is the house of the subconscious. It's the house of endings. And so this could be a crisis of endings for you. You could have a lot that has reached its culmination point, reached its boiling point, a lot of really oppressive, heavy karmic situations in your life that are no longer of service to you. And so this could be a time where you're going to be letting go and releasing a lot in a physical way and in a subconscious way. This could also bring up challenging energies involving 12th house themes and institutions. The 12th house rules things like dreams. It rules things like, your spirituality and your spiritual practices and your spiritual discipline. And maybe you've been too disciplined and too burdened by trying to find yourself on that spiritual level. And now you have to sort of release control or relinquish control. Maybe you've been dealing with something difficult involving, maybe you've been feeling really isolated and that it could reach a head and you realize that, maybe you don't want to feel this way anymore. And that could be part of it too, because of all of this 12th house energy. Maybe you have been dealing with an actual 12th house institution, like a prison or a hospitals, asylums, temples, monasteries, ashrams, spiritual retreat centers, brothels even, like places that are hidden away from society, places that you go to sort of separate yourself from the day-to-day grind. Maybe you've been dealing with those institutions and the responsibility has been weighing on you pretty greatly. And so that could all come to a head right now, and it could come to that point of release. But I would say for a lot of Aquarius rising people, this could be a time where, that isolation or that sense of isolation that maybe you've even been seeking, you realize that it's become a burden and now you feel like you need to go back out into the world, and you can find balance by focusing on the physical, focusing on your health, focusing on your day-to-day routines and your work. And that's where there's going to be some good energy coming in, so long as you're purging and clearing and letting go of anything that comes up for you that needs to be released, because this is a major period of endings for you. All right, and then for Pisces and for Pisces rising. Okay, so this is happening in your 11th house of friendship. And so for Pisces rising people, this could be a very heavy energy that's been building around your friendships and your social networks, groups of people you surround yourself with by choice. It could be that you're a part of an organization or even in a leadership position in an organization, and the burden has been weighing too heavily on you and you need to let it go. You need to shed some of that responsibility. There could be toxic friendships and toxic connections in your life that are causing you to behave in ways that you don't like, or that feel really burdensome, oppressive, limiting. Maybe their opinions are swaying you in one direction or another, and you realize that you can't have this anymore and that this isn't good for you. This is a time where you're going to be really restructuring the energy of who you surround yourself with, because the people that you surround yourself with most often in life really influence who you become, especially being a Pisces, because you are so malleable and you do pick up on people's energy very easily and you absorb it like a sponge. And so you want to make sure that you are around people that their behavior is in alignment with your belief systems. Their thought processes are not holding you back. Their negativity isn't getting stuck all over you. You're not having to sort of feel like you have to take a break or separate yourself from, society just to sort of clean off all that energy. So looking at your friendships, who feels good? What relationships feel strong? Because those relationships you should be cultivating and developing further and creating deeper intimacy within those partnerships or within those friendships where they're loyal and long lasting, and purging all the rest. And you might find yourself feeling more isolated in terms of friendships lately, because there's this energy of there's no time to just mess around. You're only going to keep the people that are solid and that you really trust and that are very loyal to you. There's no room right now for nonsense and for the negative people and for the toxic people in your life. And so that's a big part of what this is. And so this could reach a boiling point. You could have some sort of emotional crisis involving your friendships where it's kind of like, I can't deal with this anymore. I don't want to see you. I don't want to talk to you. We're letting this go. Or it could be a boiling point where you realize, I have to transform my relationship with these people because I've been taking on too much of their stuff, or because it's just not working for me. The dynamic needs to change. And that could be part of it. And by doing that, you're going to free up a lot of energy to focus on things that you love, fifth house stuff, the best house, the house of your passions, your creative pursuits, the house of love and romance and fun and spontaneity, and everything that you do because you're passionate about it and because you love it. And so you'll free up more energy for joy and for play if you let go of all these negative people. All right, and so that is the energy for all 12 signs. It's a big week, you guys, and I hope that you found this helpful. If you did, please like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends. It is a big time And, you know, if you know somebody who's going through a hard time, maybe it can shed light on what they're going through and help them to navigate, which is really my intention. Every time I do these videos, I focus my intention on, I just want to give you guys what you need from this forecast so you can navigate the energy in the best possible way. And, you know, I hope that I'm doing that for you guys. So thank you so much for watching this video, subscribing to my channel, and I will see you all next week. Bye, everyone.